Hey everybody, welcome back to Alabama Care. Today we have Miss Allie Imaghodor, who is the Executive Director of XVI. I hope I said your last name right. Allie, would you like to introduce yourself?
You did. Hey guys, I'm Allie Harrison Imaghodor, and I am so grateful to be here to talk to you guys today.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. So Harrison, I'm guessing that was your old last name. That matches your accent better.
Yes. So everybody, the lady even at Social Security when I got married 7 years ago was like, "Are you sure you want to change this last name? You're going to have to spell it for the rest of your life." And I should have listened to her. So that's typically why I go by all three names. I told my husband today, I was like, "I'm going to be a Harrison till I die." And he's like, "I could care less."
Oh, that's funny. So for our viewers, if you have any questions for Allie, you can just type them in the comments because I'm going to be checking that periodically. So are y'all ready for Christmas?
Yes, yes. Thankfully, so Xander is an only child and will be an only child, and he is the only grandchild. So we always tell everybody, like, just focus on Xander. Everything else is fine. No one's quite caught on to us yet. So we're just gonna keep rolling with it as long as we can.
Yeah, that's funny. Do y'all have Christmas Day? Do y'all self or do y'all have a lot of family come over?
Yeah, so we typically do Christmas Day to ourselves. Is very important for me to Xander to be in his most comfortable place. So I tell everybody, if you want to see Xander on Christmas Day, you got to come to our house. Christmas Eve is like all bets off. So we'll
Yeah.
typically be with my grandmother or my mother-in-law. You know, we like to get together and do gumbo or a seafood boil and just kind of lay back. But Christmas Day we like to keep pretty chill. What about y'all?
Yeah, the same. And since we've had our oldest daughter Charlie, she's 5 now, but since she was a baby, we're like, we're not leaving on Christmas Day. Like if you want to come over, that's fine, but we're gonna stay home, make it easy on us.
Yes.
Um, Another question I wanted to ask you, just more personal. I read that you love to cook. So,
Yes.
so what is your favorite thing to cook like around the holidays? You have like a sweet you always make or like a certain casserole or something like that?
Yeah, so for me, I definitely get inspired. Like if we go somewhere and we have something that's really good, my husband is always very funny. He's like, "Hey, can you make this?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh," he thinks I can make anything. But
Oh,
typically for the holidays, we'll do Christmas Eve. I either do gumbo or like a seafood boil. And then Christmas Day, I love to do a whole beef tenderloin just because we can eat it that day and then I can do something else with it the next when we have leftovers.
right.
And I'm a pretty traditional Southern cook. So all of the sides, so like the greens, the mac and cheese, all of that, like I love to just dive into for the holidays.
Right. Yeah. Us too. We love a good ham. We have a ham
Yes.
and we prefer ham even on Thanksgiving and we'll eat it leftover, but
Same, like I don't do a whole turkey for Thanksgiving. If I do turkey, it's just a turkey breast because there's no way we'll ever eat a whole turkey.
right. Yeah. So tell us what is XVI and the inspiration behind it.
Yeah. So XVI is my son's initials. So that's Xander Vance Amagador. And it took his godmother realizing. So he is named Vance, his middle name, after his godparents. And so when we let them know that we wanted to name Xander after them, they were like, wait, his initials will be Roman numerals. And, you know, us being Southern mamas and monogramming, I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot, yes, like all of the yes. That wasn't even, you know, our motivation. But so from the time Xander was born, you know, Oz, my husband and I, um, have just dived into wanting to better understand micropreemies. So Xander was born at 23 weeks and spent 19 weeks in the NICU. And what we thought would just be this crazy journey down a medical road. You know, they told us he would never walk, he would never talk, you know, he was going to need, you know, medical intervention for the rest of his life. And then once Xander got out of the NICU and we realized we weren't going to be on a medical journey, we were going to be on a developmental journey, it just really threw us for a loop. You know, we have an incredible village of friends and neighbors and people who have just poured into us from the moment that Xander was born. But what I found was I still felt so isolated because no one could understand. Everybody did their best to, you know, encourage us and support us, but it was just like at 6 years ago, nobody was having 23 weekers that were doing well and that came out, only needing these developmental early interventions. So from that, we just met a couple people through hashtags on Instagram and Facebook. We actually have a good friend that was in California that was born this exact same day as Xander in 2015, that was born at 22 weeks and 6 days.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's just so cool how social media really connected us with people. And so informally, we've been helping other families just as a support system and kind of networking since Xander was born. But officially in December of last year, actually Friday will be our 1-year anniversary, we decided to formally put XVI into motion. And when we were thinking about a name, we couldn't think of anything better than Xander's initials, because this really is our passion project in honor of him. I've been involved in nonprofit in Birmingham for as long as I can remember, but for us being able to do this and really have that personal passion and drive behind our son has just been really incredible. And we're just so grateful for the response we've gotten from the community as well.
Right. And that's got to make it easy knowing like he's driving it all.
Yes. It makes it easy and it makes it hard too, because I find myself trickling down a fine line of being like advocate mama bear and like, okay, Allie, you got to be professional when you're giving advice to other people, So I have to keep my Southern sass, as I like to call it, in check sometimes.
Uh-huh. So I'm glad you mentioned that about the Roman numerals, because I was hesitant to say XVI because I was like, oh, I wonder if it's pronounced, 16 or
16. Yes, we get that question all the time, and everybody's like, even people who know us were like, what's 16? And I was like, y'all, it's Xander's initials. And they're like, oh my gosh, yes, it is.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to ask you that recently, and I don't remember the details, but there was a preemie that came out of UAB that I think maybe was he like a world record?
21 weeks.
Is it 21?
And honestly, like I could cry just thinking about it and talk about it. 6 years ago when we were in the NICU, I knew that there were certain interventions just because I dedicated my time to studying and figuring it out, and things that just weren't happening in the NICU back then, getting PT, getting OT, getting all these interventions that help these little bitty babies who aren't supposed to be here play catch up before they even get home. So just the fact that medicine has evolved enough with small enough tubes, they told us when Xander was born that if he did not show signs of life, that they wouldn't do any interventions. And I was just like, wait, what do you mean? Like, he's got a heartbeat, he's viable, and it was just like, that was just the way then. But now, knowing that we have all this data and this information that can really allow these babies to thrive, it's just really incredible.
Right. And I personally think like we're from a really good area with UAB and children's, like they're like top of the line, best hospitals.
Yes. And so Xander was born at Princeton and was actually able to stay at Princeton. And what a lot of people don't realize about Princeton is they actually have a level 4 NICU. So UAB/Children's is the only one that is the level 5 where they can perform surgeries. But you're right. We're in an area where there are so many great hospitals where your baby can really get really quality care really anywhere, which is just awesome.
Right. And what you said about social media connecting you. So my daughter Charlie, we had a normal pregnancy and all that good stuff. And even like, when she was born, everything was fine. And then she started having seizures when she was 3 months old, and then down the line. So she had some genetic issues that it just happened at conception. It was nothing she inherited. And nobody could really tell us anything about what she had. Like, just nobody could tell us anything. And we ended up finding a Facebook group with girls from all over the world who had exactly or has exactly what Charlie has. And so from there, we were able to see. And so honestly, we didn't even go back to the genetic doctor because they told us that she had Cornelia de Lange. And they told us what she has. She has the SMC1A related disorder, and that's usually connected to Cornelia de Lange. And so what we found out was, so you can't have Cornelia de Lange without having the SMC1A, but you can have the SMC1A mutation without having Cornelia DeLange.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, so we just didn't even go back to them, but of course she sees a ton of other specialty.
Right, you're like, she's covered.
Yeah, but yeah, like it's incredible. Like I know social media has its kind of like negative sides, but also
Sure.
like, there's a lot of good that comes out of it too.
Absolutely. And it can be the simplest thing of somebody just reaching out and saying, hey, have you tried this? Or hey, have you done this? And then it's like a light bulb goes off and you're like, oh my goodness, I could have just spent months waiting and a huge copay to figure out something that Becky in Texas was able to help me with.
Right.
You know?
So also just curious, you said that you were connected with a lot of other nonprofits before. Like
Yeah.
what were those?
Yeah, so I spent about 14 years with Susan G. Komen, which is the a breast cancer organization. So I got involved with them. Look at that cutie pie. Hey, darling.
She brought me nail clippers. We'll do it later, okay, baby?
I love it.
Nails.
But yeah, so I got involved after my grandmother was diagnosed just because I wanted to throw myself behind it and be able to support something. You know, family is everything to me. My family is small, but my husband's side of the family is huge. And so I just really like to do things that really like reflect my family and what matters to us. And I'm also currently the president of the junior board at Child Care Resources. So they're an incredible organization in town that provides support to families looking for childcare all across the greater Birmingham area, as well as providing a supplemental childcare program. They also just recently introduced a Head Start program. So really trying to get those kids before the age of 5 into a preschool setting so they can have those great fundamentals for big school.
Right. Oh, that's incredible. So with the child care, do y'all also focus on like kids with special needs?
So that is a great way for me to kind of segue XVI into childcare resources. So they've got a really awesome resource development specialist that has a lot of information on different camps and things like that. But as far as, you know, that is something where we're very limited in, especially in Birmingham, is childcare that's willing to accept children with special needs. You know,
Right.
United Ability is where Xander got all of his early intervention, and their hand-in-hand early learning program is really just, I mean, it is the most magical place. And so that is really the one main daycare that will accept kids with all needs. Other daycares are kind of on a case-by-case basis, kind of give the kid a little bit of trial and error. So we're working on collecting more information of centers who would be equipped to handle a child with special needs.
So before Xander, did you have any connection to like the special needs community?
No, I did not. I have always considered myself, you know, to be, awake and aware of what was going on around me, but nobody in my close circle ever had a child with special or developing needs. So it kind of just really threw us for a loop when we found out Xander was going to be born early. Then we went through early intervention and he didn't catch up, like the doctors like to say. So yeah, Xander really kind of thrust us into this community quick, fast, and in a hurry.
Well, I know we didn't either. Like I had a boy in my class growing up and he had special needs. But we had such a small class. We're such a small town. And I mean, we knew that he was different, but we didn't really think too much of it. But other than that, like I didn't really know anything about it. But once you're in it, like it's a whole new world and it's really awesome. And you meet some wonderful people.
Yeah, it's awesome, but then it's also like I'm so much more aware of, you know, special needs and disabilities that Xander doesn't even have. Like if I go to a place and it's not properly wheelchair accessible now, I get like all in a tizzy because I've got such good friends who are like, Allie, we can't come here, or it's going to be difficult for us to navigate here because it's not accessible. And I'm like, well, we're just going to have to change that, you know?
I love that you think about that. I know, because when I think about stuff, I think about my daughter, Charlie, who is in a wheelchair and all the things. And it seems like you think about other people, and then some of the stuff we'll get to, I feel like you don't even forget about like adults even. So I think that's so cool. So
well, you're sweet to say that. Thank you.
so talk about like details on how y'all help and examples.
Yeah, so we try to, one of the things that I realize is Oz and I are both working parents. So we're able to maintain dual insurance for Xander, which I mean it's a game changer, especially when you think about he's currently in 2 different specialized therapies as well as school. So the costs really add up quickly. I think our out of his NICU bill was over $1 million by the time he got out of the NICU. Yeah. So we really realized along the way, just sitting in the waiting room and being very observant of the people around us, that people were struggling to fund copays when their kids were getting speech twice a week. And people were struggling to fill out paperwork because they knew something was going wrong, but they did not have either the background or the words to be able to really describe that to help someone else understand. And so I'm very much that person. If I see something, I want to do something, I want to try to change it. That is, it's a blessing and a curse sometimes, I think, because I get so up in arms and I want to be able to help in any way that I can everywhere. And so, that's just one of the things we want to make it easy for a parent to say, hey, I don't need anything from you other than someone to talk to. A huge part of what we do is not giving anybody a dime. It is just talking to them, encouraging them, saying you're doing a great job, you're doing the right thing. It's just there are these barriers in place that you can't control, like waiting lists and costs and insurance, mumbo jumbo. So one of the things that we do is we just allow parents to reach out to us and we connect with them personally. My husband does a really great job of connecting with other dads that just say, hey, I need another dad who really understands, because their friends say all the wrong things, and they want to be there, but
family doesn't know what to say.
Oh my goodness, they'll just be like, oh, blah, 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 this is that and the other. And you're like, yeah, no, but okay.
Right.
Yeah. So we do that. So outreach is a huge part of what we do, but then monetarily, we know that a lot of families are having to drive long distances just to be able to access therapy. So we provide gas cards to families for them to be able to get back and forth to therapy. We also pay copays for people through a scholarship that we provide. So our scholarship season runs from March to May, where we take all the applications in, and what we do is it's for if you have a disability or a special need, or if you have a developing need. What we've noticed is a lot of, underserved families who have kids that may have dyslexia or a speech impediment, where they don't necessarily have a disability that is widely recognized, but they do need this consistent therapy.
Wow.
It was important for us because Xander's original diagnosis was only global developmental delay. And that was so vague that insurance didn't want to cover things. If we did need, resources from another agency, everyone was so compartmentalized into one different diagnosis. And we were like, hey, we can be different is by just saying, hey, if you have something that's going on that doesn't check a typical box, we will do our best to try to help you. And so from that, we also saw the need to support different special education teachers and their classrooms and therapists. So we also provide teacher grants to be able to put better tools in the classroom so they have everything they need to perform their services while not having to go out of their own pocket, because as you know, all the teachers are underpaid and overworked.
Right. Yeah, and something that stood out to me, like when I mentioned something about adults with disability, is y'all give assistance with documents. And when I read that, like I thought, oh, well, that could even be like an adult with disability who needed help. So I loved that. Here's my daughter's important paperwork.
Look, it's so important.
Oh, and then also I laid this out This is an old picture of my daughter, but it was on the refrigerator, and it's one of my favorite. This is Charlie.
Look at her beautiful self.
I know.
She's so sweet.
The one that keeps coming around, Parker. This is Parker.
Oh, she doesn't love her sister at all, does she?
Oh my gosh, she's obsessed. I was telling somebody recently, like, and she's so smart, but Charlie also has a G-tube, and one of Parker's first words was G-tube. And I thought
I love that.
I know. So I read a quote by Shannon Culver, and it says, there are so many challenges that special needs families face through their journey, and having a foundation like XVI is truly a gift. XVI is giving our children a voice and providing great resources for our families to help our children be included and successful.
I'm emotional, Hannah, and don't have me crying on here today, okay?
I'm just thinking, like, that's got to make you feel like so good, like when you try to do something and then people truly appreciate it and it helps people, like that's got to be so rewarding.
It is the most incredible feeling in the world, because I remember where I was 6 years ago and just feeling lost and isolated and alone and misunderstood, that knowing that what we've been able to do in just a year has already helped people is amazing.
Yeah. And talking again, like about social media, I remember it took us a while to really talk about what Charlie was going through, because she was our first baby. And first off, we didn't know what to expect really.
Right.
But then you'd kind of see, like, the older she got, then you would see other kids doing all the things. And then, you push it off for as long as you can. And you're like, oh, they're rushing their kid, it's fine.
Right.
But then you kind of start to see, well, wait a second, this isn't fair. But then when you connect to your people who are like you, I mean, life just changes and it just gets so much better. But at first, like you said, like, it can be lonely.
Right. And so what I did was, we had this overwhelming amount of people just demanding updates on Xander when he was in the NICU. And so what I started was, I was like, I know everybody has the best intentions, but it's getting to be a lot. So I started a weekly update, and that weekly update turned into a monthly update. And then now it's like a quarterly update, when we have his IEP. But for me, my best therapy through it all was just talking about it and laying it out, just being very transparent about it. That comes with its downfalls, because you get the comments, you get people who are trying to tell you what to do and they don't know anything from up or down. So, it's hard, but also, like, I think me being so transparent has been part of what other people have told me has really helped them. So that makes me feel really good too. I'm like, okay, my therapy is really helping other people. So.
Right. Yeah. So more about Xander. You said he does get some therapies. Tell us about, like, what services he gets, and also your experience with state agencies.
Yeah. Sweet love. So Xander is currently in kindergarten. It's his first year. So last year, instead of doing kindergarten, he's got a July birthday. So we decided, hey, delays aside, he's still a little young to be starting kindergarten. So we decided to do ABA therapy. ABA was the best thing that we thought of that could really get him the one-on-one attention that he needed. Xander, we call him the tiny dictator for a reason. Like, he is a very typical only child, and when he wants your attention, he is going to demand it, because he's like, either look at what I can do or show me how I need to do this. He is very good about asserting his independence. So once we did ABA, it really helped him with those fundamentals of, learning to sit in a chair, standing in line, like all the basics that he really needed to thrive in kindergarten. The pandemic threw us for a little bit of a loop, since he is, he's perfectly healthy, but he does have the BPD. So he's got those chronic preemie lungs. So he's very susceptible to any respiratory illnesses. So, it took a lot for us to be able to, say, hey, we have to manage your physical health with your developmental health and go ahead and send you to kindergarten. So he's in the resource room with his special education teacher, who is incredible. He also has a BCBA that follows him with his behavior intervention plan. His main delays are in speech and language communication. And as he has grown mentally and developmentally, he gets more increasingly frustrated when he is expressing himself in a way that people should understand and they don't. And I understand that as an adult, where I feel like I'm speaking plainly and someone's not getting what I'm saying, that can be frustrating. And so he does have some negative behaviors that come out from that. So he also receives speech in school and privately, and then OT in school and privately. So he's very sensory seeking. He's loud and proud. He loves to hear himself yell. He also is very orally sensory seeking. And I work in medicine by day, and just, knowing what he's been through, I'm like, buddy, especially in a pandemic, can you not put everything in your mouth? Like, please help your mother. But he does what he wants to do. So
I know the pandemic threw us off too.
Yeah.
So with Charlie, she did early intervention. Did he?
Mhm.
I'm sure he did that too, right?
He did. So he was in early intervention from the time he was 9 months old until he aged out at 3.
Yeah. So did y'all have a good experience? Like, do y'all, oh my gosh, I'm like drawing a blank on what they're called. Like, do y'all have to use like CRS for anything?
So we use United Ability. So what was funny was my journey with wanting to advocate for families started when Xander left the NICU. I researched and I knew that he automatically qualified for early intervention because he was born before 26 weeks. Well, we went to the first agency that I will not mention their name because I have let it go. I'm a new person. But they were like, oh no, he's not delayed enough. And I was like, no, you don't understand. He qualifies automatically. And they're like, no, come back and see us in a year after, he's had a year out of the NICU. And I was like, no, okay, on to the next. So I researched and I found United Ability, and I tried to go with an open mind, and I was like, let me go through this whole evaluation and just let me see what they're going to say. And they're like, well, these are the areas I think we can work on, but he automatically qualifies because he was born at 23 weeks. And I was just like,
well, thank you.
Thank you. I was like, thank you for someone who gets it. Yeah. So yeah, that was where I was like, I told my husband, I was like, what if we would have just accepted that answer? Like, you go to these people who are supposed to be the experts, who are supposed to be able to provide you with everything, and then to get shut down in that way. And when you're a parent who already has so much more on your plate, you're like, okay, I just have to accept that. And that's what we really want to work hard to do, is to trust your gut. Nobody knows their kid like we do. And I'm sure you've experienced much of the same with Charlie as well.
Yeah. But yeah, what I started to say was the pandemic threw us off too, but Charlie, she did, so after she aged out, she went to preschool and she was in a special class, and she would get sick so easy, and she would catch a cold and then end up in the hospital and intubated because of a cold. So finally, because we tried a couple times, and then so finally we stopped trying and said, okay, well, we'll try again when she's 5. Maybe her immune system will be stronger. So, but anyway, so obviously we didn't because of COVID. So she's homebound, and so we're probably going to just try again next fall. But anyway, so I even wrote a book for her that I had published and everything for her to use on her first day of school. It just kind of gave her a voice and helped introduce her to tell about everything that she's not able to explain herself because she's nonverbal. And then, but anyways, and so my family and everybody liked it. And so then I thought, well, oh gosh, well, maybe other families can use it too. So there are other people getting to use it. We haven't got to use it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. So.
I love that so much. I'll have to grab it.
Yeah, it's called Charlie May's First Day. I'm so proud of it, but super sweet. I think it's sweet.
No, it is definitely sweet. I think anything that comes from your heart in honor of your child, it's a good thing.
Right. Yeah. I think so too.
Yeah.
So do you still use the hashtag, the Xanders of XBI? Like, do you still use that hashtag for
The
people?
Adventures of XBI. Yeah. So it's funny because what I realized is that everything with a lot of agencies is very transactional. You
Mhm.
get something and then the book is closed, it's over. And what we realized is this journey through development, it is not a one and done. It definitely feels like an adventure. And so I just wanted to have a fun play on that for what we can use to tell other families, like, hey, roller coaster seems very intimidating for people sometimes. Everybody always says, oh, life is a roller coaster. Oh, your journey is going to be a roller coaster. And we're like, we'll just call it an adventure,
Yeah.
And in an adventure, you never know what you're going to get. So
Yeah.
that's where that came from.
Gotcha. So also you mentioned like, so he can speak, right?
Yeah, so what also, like, I realize is there are so many terms that are very, dated and not for kids, that kind of fall somewhere in between, which is where Xander is. He
Mhm.
can speak. He's got about 30 words that are core words that he actually says.
Yeah.
He also is very echoic here lately, where you'll say something. I remember one day I said, this was a couple years ago, and I was like, this is so ridiculous. And he looked at me and was like, ridiculous. And I was like, look, don't think of where he gets his
Oh
attitude,
my
man. It's
God.
not me, but he is just so funny. So, but we also have an AAC for him. So we have a talker, as we call it. So he uses that, and it's really been very instrumental in his learning in kindergarten. We just got an update from his teacher last week that he was correctly identifying animals in a book, but then also using his talker to identify the animal as well. So that's like really huge for him. It's like he's finally putting all of the pieces together, and it's really working for his benefit.
Oh my gosh, that's so good. Speaking of his attitude, I read that you said that he has an expressive eyebrow.
Yes.
Can he not hide what he's feeling?
He is very much like his mama, and that all of his feelings go on his face. So yeah, so if you typically see Xander, I wish I had my Christmas card to pop up here for you. He's got that eyebrow. Like, the eyebrow is in full effect at all times.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
So I know the sensory friendly Christmas party, it's full, but still tell us about it.
Yeah, no, and honestly, I have been just so amazed at the response to it. We wanted to start off small and being mindful of the pandemic still, but I put out a poll on Alabama autism families on the Facebook group, and I said, hey, what are things that you don't feel like are being done by other agencies, and what can we do? And one of the number one things that people said was sensory friendly holiday events. And I think about it too, just like in wanting to do these things, but you can't just go to the mall Santa or go to just a traditional party and it not be accessible, or be worried about other people's judgments when your child is just being themselves. And so, so what we're doing is we're getting everybody together. We're going to have a bunch of different little stations for each of the kids to do. Santa is going to make a little surprise entrance to kind of walk around and mingle with the kids. We were doing a little gingerbread theme this year. So we've got little sensory bins, individual sensory bins for each of the kids. We're also going to do a flower making activity, something that the kids can do and then also take home to their families. And we're going to have food from our friends at Moss Rock. They're great friends of ours who are helping us with the food, sponsoring that. We also had the most fun photo booth that I have ever seen. It's called Trailer Park Photo. We had them for Xander's birthday party this year, and it's literally a trailer that is lined with all these awesome magazine covers, and they have these crazy fun props that you get to go in and take pictures with. So we thought that'd be a good, photo memory for everybody to be able to take home as a favor. And then honestly, we're just going to be mingling together. We have, typical kids coming, and we have kids who have disabilities, because for us, I think that you can't expect progress if everyone isn't involved, if everyone isn't at the table. We as special needs moms can come together, but if we don't have those other moms with other kids, it's like we're never going to be able to create this good community of understanding to where I want everybody to be able to play together and nobody, look at you crazy because you're yelling at the top of the lungs because
Right.
you're happy, not because you're upset, but
Yeah.
you don't have any other words to say, oh my gosh, I'm so happy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So that's what it's about. It's just a time to fellowship together, little activities for the kids to keep them happy, but it's a zero judgment zone. If your kid
Yes.
yells, your kid yells. If you need it to be accessible because your kid's in a wheelchair, we have that ability for them to be able to come in and just do some things. We've got a little quiet corner for the kids who are sensory avoidant, and we are going to have music and a disco ball for the kids who love that sensory seeking thing.
Um, so also, like, I've got a lot to say when it comes to that, but I'm going to save it
Yeah.
in just a second. So what about like past events? I saw Delayed Not Denied, and
Yes.
that was pretty incredible.
Yeah. So it was I have been blown away at the support of our friends and the way that they have gotten their friends into supporting us. So I really didn't think we were going to do a major fundraiser for our first year. I was like, we're just going to see how it goes. And it really just got to a point where everybody was like, Allie, you need to have something. Like, we want to have something to go to be able to support you. So Delayed Not Denied is something that I've always said in regard to Xander. Like, yes, we're delayed, but he's not going to be denied a good life. And so what's important for Oz and I is that we're doing everything we can to make Xander's life the best for him, and whatever that means. It doesn't mean checking all the boxes, doing all the things that a book says you're supposed to do. It just means helping him be able to harness his independence, and just live great. So yeah, so we had our fundraiser in October. We raised over $26,000, which just,
Wow.
I mean, I was just like, stop giving me money, people. Like, it was just like, hey, I work a full-time job still. I was not prepared to be, doing all of this, but it is just, we're just so blessed with abundance, and we're just so grateful that we're going to be able to really help and impact more families than we ever thought we could.
Right. So y'all have like plans for more future events, right?
Yes. So the other thing that we did, we're going to try to do every major holiday. So, we're going to look at doing an Easter egg hunt. We're going to look at doing something 4th of July. We definitely want to have a more low key fundraiser that can be outside in the summer, where just be a fish fry or something. Just, we're really big on fellowship and connecting with people. So we don't ever want anything that's going to be too intimidating. My motivation for Delayed Not Denied was just like a big family dinner. We wanted everybody put some clothes on and just come and feel like you're having a Sunday dinner with your family. So we'll definitely do Delayed Not Denied again next year in October, but we're also planning some fun events for every holiday.
Right. So that's a big thing with me. Like, if I get asked, like, I'm going to ask you later, like, what is something, well, we'll get to that question. But my thing is, because Charlie is 5, like, I wish there was more fun stuff for these kids to do, because I feel like literally every activity, because unless you're affected by special needs, you don't really, I mean, I guess some people think about it, but most of the time people don't. So most things that are planned for kids aren't really, I don't feel like it covers kids like Charlie.
Right.
So yeah, so I do not have a nonprofit yet, but I have a little group. It's called Special in a Small Town. Because just about anything we have to drive to Birmingham.
Right.
So I connected with a pretty good many like local special needs parents, and it's grew a little bit. But anyway, so last year sometime I was like, hey, who would be interested in an egg hunt for special needs kids? And everybody was like, yes, 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 yes. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. So I planned it all out on the front of our property. But something that I learned from it, so since the egg hunt, then I dreamed about this, and I didn't think it was really going to happen, but it did, and it was incredible. So we had a fall festival, and it was even better. And then also it was on my heart, like I wanted to do something for Christmas time too, but you can never really tell about the weather. I mean, like it's been 70 something degrees this
so
week.
hard,
But you would
right?
assume that it's going to be cold in the wintertime. And I didn't like personally, just because Charlie is, she's so sensitive, or medically fragile. I didn't want to plan anything indoors just because we're still being so careful just indoors with COVID and everything. So then somebody shared with me about your event and I was like, oh my gosh, this is kind of like what I wanted to do.
Yes.
But anyway, so the egg hunt and the fall festival, both of them turned out perfect. But something that I noticed after the fall festival, because I met a lot of new kids, was with the egg hunt, I catered to, like I had two sections. I had a path for kids on feet, and then I had a path for kids on wheels. And then the way that I hid the eggs for the kids on wheels. So, and like I said, I didn't think about this until the fall festival when I met so many other kids. But my 2-year-old was giving me the stink eye.
That's just like, wait a second, Mom. Don't be critical of yourself.
But no, so hang on. It's okay, baby. So the egg hunt, what I did with the kids on wheels was I was thinking more of about the kids like Charlie. So I had a lot of like the kids who weren't really able to grab stuff by themselves. Things like that. I didn't really think about, which luckily we didn't have any kids there that this applied for, but I didn't really think about the kids on wheels who would want to actually find a hidden egg.
Do it themselves.
Yeah. So like I said, and then the fall festival was a lot of fun. We had an accessible hayride, which you don't see much. Like a lot of these kids rode on their first hayride. And then I had a special, I was so proud of this. I had a special, do you know, in all the pumpkin patches they have, I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm grabbing my charger so my computer doesn't die.
Oh, it's okay. They have a board that says how tall this fall. And so, and well, not all kids can stand. So we had a special
can't really
board.
Measure. Yeah.
Right. So we had a special board. If I can remember what it says, it says, it said on your feet or in your seat, what fine line does your head meet? And it was measured, but instead of numbers, it would say stuff like incredible or amazing and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. So, and then maybe that's stuff that I'm interested in too. It's just fun stuff for these kids that don't really get. And then what you said was my number one reason for doing it is a place where people aren't staring at you. You're not the one that is standing out. Like your kid may have a seizure and not everybody's going to stare. Like, that's okay. My kid has seizures too. Or if some kids have a meltdown or something like that, or like you said, if your child is screaming like, hey, no big deal, no big deal.
Just honestly, just having a place where people are like, hey, like I'm not even paying attention to that. I think it's just so important because it adds extra anxiety for us when we're already in a tense situation. Cause I'm sure getting ready for you guys just to get out the door can be hard. So but no, Hannah, what I wanted to say is, so what's important for us with XVI, we say XVI be him just because that's where we are, but we've supported, schools and places in Mobile. So my husband and I are only 2 people, but we would love to be able to help sponsor you to be able to do one of your events where you are. So we definitely can talk offline about that because we're not trying to be our hand in, every single thing. If you've got something and it works and you just need a little bit of help, like we're here to help you.
Well, that sounds good. Yeah, y'all could definitely just be involved and give y'all's ideas, because the next question I was going to ask you was if other people want to make their gatherings inclusive, what are some tips you would give them? Because like I mentioned, like I think about Charlie most of all. Kids like Charlie, like I don't know much about kids with, like I'm learning, but like I don't know much about kids with autism. And then like what you said, and I've always been worried about, because I'll have a big speaker that plays music, and it's like, well, what if that bothers some kids, and I'm just not sure. So when it comes to other kids, but then also with these events, I want it to be fun for siblings too.
Yes.
So, but so far so good.
Yeah, I think it's just like you said, learning and being mindful that, you know, of course we think of our kids and things that would, you know, be helpful for us. But I also just really, a poll is my favorite thing. Like I love a good poll. So I utilize them in different Facebook groups. I use them on our own personal social media. And I just ask people what they would like to see. And I try to take that and make it into our own fun way. So for me, having a good sensory friendly event means having options. So if you want to go and see lights, you've got that. If you don't like noise, we'll have headphones available for kids to use. You know, we have a separate outdoor area to where if somebody's just overwhelmed by the amount of people, they can just go outside and chill. Also about, you know, having different food options to where everybody can kind of get a little bit of something. I think it's just mainly about paying attention to what you think your crowd would want and just saying, hey, I'm going to do my best to try to meet that need, because I don't think that there's ever going to be one event that's perfect for everybody, just because everybody's needs are so individual. You know, autism is a spectrum. You know, Charlie's needs in her wheelchair are not the same as another child that may be in a wheelchair. So I think it's just important to try your best. And like you said, we're all still learning. You know, we don't have all the answers for everybody. I just think if you do something genuinely like you've done and put your heart into it and you've opened yourself up for that feedback, you're like, okay, I can make that better for next year.
Right.
Yeah.
So Xander's Christmas list and gift ideas for kids with special needs, and then even gift ideas for parents who have kids with special needs.
Yeah. So I would say Xander's list, Xander is he's a foodie. He loves to eat. Like he has like a swimsuit model body that he apparently gets from my husband's family, because it's not me. But you know, he eats and eats and eats and just stays as tall and lean as he wants to. So he definitely, from my grandmother, asked for a Cookie Fix gift card or Big Spoon. There are his two favorite treat places. So he asked for gift cards to there. Like they know him by name. He walks in there and it's like, hey, and they already know what he wants. But you know, so that he did ask, so we got him a bigger trampoline because he is so sensory seeking and has so much energy he needs to burn. We also got him one of those Nugget comfort couches. I don't know if you know that. Yeah. So he already had one, but my husband is an engineer by day. So he was like, he needs another one so we can build more things. So, so we got another one so they can build like more forts. So I would say those are his big things. But what I found from other people is that their kids just kind of want quirky little things that may not be a typical toy that they just love. You know, so, and I would say for a parent, I know what I would appreciate is like some self-care time. So like a gift certificate for me to be able to go get some self-care that I don't have to think about, like, hey, the funding is there for that. Also, there's some really cool services like Ship to be able to do grocery delivery, or Neat, which is, I know it's in the greater Birmingham area, but they come in and they don't do deep cleaning, but they'll pick up, they'll fold laundry, they'll do dishes. I think anything that kind of can help take a burden off would be a great gift for somebody who's a parent of a child with special needs.
Right. And you mentioned, and I'm sure he does, but does he have a Z vibe? Like
so
he's always
him and his Z vibe, yes. Z vibes, chewy tubes, the chewy necklaces. He's very he doesn't like anything like on his head or on his face. So like he should be wearing glasses. He won't wear them because it's one of his sensory things. He doesn't like things on his face. So he doesn't like to wear the necklace around. He'll just like typically like chew it in the side of his mouth and just like walk with it hanging.
Yeah. So I brought this up in another interview, but my daughter swiped it before I could show anybody. So I love this. It's a little mitt, and I've used it for so much stuff. It's
wow.
Oh my gosh, what it's called, Universal Art Tool. And they
Okay.
had it on some kind of special website, but since then, because I thought I lost it and then I had to order another one. So since then they have it on more websites and they have it on Amazon. But anyway, so it's a little glove and it comes with the paintbrush, but you can take that paintbrush out and you can put a crayon or anything in it. And then
Oh my goodness.
yeah, so, and you can like hold their elbow and it like the ones who can't like hold stuff.
Right.
So
Yeah. Xander's the same way. He doesn't like fine motor tasks. So this is
yeah.
awesome.
Yes. And but also I've used it for so much stuff like with Charlie, like when I get her stuff, I try to think about ways that she can interact with her little sister too. So we also use this. I found one of those like fishing games with the magnets, but I made sure it was like a thicker, like it wasn't a little skinny pole, it was a thicker pole. So I can help her fish with her sister. So
I
this
love that.
is a good gift idea. Like I think it's
That
definitely
is awesome. Yeah. I'll definitely have to find that because that's incredible. I can think of like 5 different people who would love that.
Yes, I'll send you a link. But I'm
Perfect.
pretty sure it's called a universal art tool. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, like you said, with the gift, like for parents, like gift certificates, and then even like I've never tried like that HelloFresh stuff, but even like that,
Yes.
something that
Meal
would make
kits.
cooking dinner easy.
Yes. Yes. Anything to make life easier, and one less thing that we have on our list is
Right.
great.
Right.
She is like, Mama, I want to be on camera.
She is. She but anyway, so do y'all have like continuous fundraisers like a t-shirt or and then also I want to know about your sponsors, and then also how can someone donate, and then also how can someone apply for help? If you forget, I'll remind you.
Oh yeah, no. So everything, we try to keep everything clear and concise on our website. So we have a contact form for anybody who needs to reach out to us. It can be for anything, whether you want to know about our grant process and our dates, or if you're looking for teacher help or support, or if you just say, hey, I'd love somebody to talk to, this is where we're at. Our contact form is a one and done. You just reach out to us and someone will reach out to you. I typically try to reach out back out to everybody within 48 hours. We have a donate button on our website as well, where you can just click and donate. We are a 501c3, so where everything is tax deductible. Our sponsors are really great. We've had friends who have had their companies match their donations through their fellowship, which is just incredible. But so our main sponsors of Delayed Not Denied, our signature fundraising event, were Altec and Donahue Auto. 2 very great friends, both work at those companies, and just decided, hey, they wanted to reach out and support us in that way. And then we've had so many supports from just families directly who have said who they want to remain private, but they have given so generously for us to be able to continue our mission. Like we just received a $5,000 donation yesterday from a dear family who just wants it to go to our scholarship program. So knowing that we're going to be able to do so much more next year is just really incredible. So I guess to sum everything up, our website is the easiest way to reach us. We also have Facebook and Instagram at XVIBHAM. So we try to be quick and easy for everybody to get back to us. But so as far as continuous fundraisers, we do have t-shirts on our website. It just with the supply chain and COVID, it's become pretty difficult to try to maintain stock, and especially because we do everything out of our home. So I'm like, I'm running out of room here. We've got a small house. So I don't know that we'll continue to do the t-shirts for a continuous fundraiser, but we're always looking, for other ideas. So whether we've thought about selling, meals in partnership with a restaurant. So we've taken some time off at the end of this month to be able to kind of reflect and go over and see kind of what we want to do next year. So for sure in October, we'll do another, signature event of Delayed Not Denied. And we plan to try to do every holiday having some sort of sensory friendly holiday party for every major holiday next year as well.
And another one that I had thought about, I had mainly thought about like Easter, fall, and then Christmas, and then a little something in the summer, not necessarily 4th of July, but just something in the summer. And something I had thought about is just having like a big movie screen and just kind of like grilling, what you said, like a fish fry, something like. So I guess
that would be awesome. Look, Hannah, we got to talk. We got to talk after this.
We sure can. And then also I'll post links to your website and Instagram and Facebook. I'll post all that in the comments underneath the video.
Oh, thank you.
So we're coming to a close. What would you like to see more of in Alabama in the disability community?
Oh goodness, I feel like I could be here another hour talking about that. I would love to see more support for people of various economic backgrounds. So there's a huge gap between people who are able to receive state funding and state insurance versus the people who make just over the income limits. But I mean, as you know, it's so expensive to have a child with special needs. And so any and everything that we can do to try to help support people financially, I would love to see other agencies help fill in the gaps for people who are over income limits. I would also just like to see a more streamlined place to know where to go for help for different things. Like, I feel like everything is very hard to navigate. And if you're not pointed to the correct website, then you're down a rabbit hole of 3 other websites, just to try to figure out what best helps you. I also wish that we, were able to continue to lobby for insurance to cover, ABA therapy, which was great. There was a huge movement to cover ABA therapy through the autism community, but the caveat to that has been now insurance only covers ABA if you have an autism diagnosis, when there's data that shows that ABA is good across diagnoses to be able to help kids who have psychological or physical trauma, kids who have global developmental delays. I wish that we were all able to continue to get together and lobby for these things to be covered across the board and not just so diagnostic specific.
I totally 100% agree. Yes, everything is so expensive. And then there's a lot of stuff that insurance just won't pay for. And like you said, if you're over that income, then nope, they can't help
by
you.
a dollar, and it's like, if you have other children that you're trying to support, so often we have people who are like, I can't pursue therapy this week because I have to buy groceries. Right. There are these decisions that people, with the cost of food these days, I mean, it's outrageous. So, we're trying to help bridge that gap to where, you shouldn't have to choose between putting food on your table and being able to get your child the necessary therapies.
Right. And then another thing you said is something I've also thought about, like in that little group that I mentioned that I had, something I've always wanted to do, and I haven't done it, but is have a list for kids or like parents who have newly diagnosed kids, just like a list of places to call if you need this, who to contact if you need this,
right,
stuff like that. But yeah, it's crazy how expensive stuff is. But Charlie, it took her like 2 years and she got approved for a Medicaid waiver. And then
good.
That pays what her Blue Cross Blue Shield won't. And then also, I want to tell you about this too, and I didn't write it down, but it's called like alhip.com, HIPP, I think. But anyway, so that is a program in Alabama. And I don't really know the requirements, but I'm pretty sure if you have a special needs kid or a kid with special needs, and they'll cover your insurance premiums, like for the whole
thing. Wow.
Yeah. Awesome. So that could be some good information that you could.
Yeah, definitely to be able to give to people. Thank you for that.
Yeah. And I'll send you that link too, along with the little tool. So, okay, well, I think that covers it, but we'll definitely be in touch.
Yeah, Hannah, thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about the Holiday Bash and XVI. And it's just so good to just meet you and connect with you and know that like we're basically on the same page about everything. So we're going to have to connect outside of this.
Yes, for sure. But yeah, it was nice to meet you too. And thank y'all for everything. Merry Christmas.
Yes, Merry Christmas to y'all. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye, y'all.